Sometimes when I'm thinking about us, before we got lost and we parted, back to back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. Back we would carry on and we'd do anything for what we started. But this time we could break. I'm running dry, everything's the same. We'll try tonight. This time we're not safe and sound, not safe and sound. What if I'm no good for you? What if you're no good for me? Yeah.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the stream. It is time for the news. Oh yeah. How you doing tonight, Blunty?
Good. How's it going, Joshua?
Oh, I'm doing really good, man. I'm always glad to be here with you for the news. I'm always glad to be here with all you lovely people in the chat as well. All you lovely people in the chat. Double A, Big Data Pimp, Big Data Pimp wants to know how your Hagrid impression is. I see the.
I don't have an impression ready to go, but I can certainly do a silent Hagrid. That's for sure.
A silent Hagrid. There you go. It's nice. Oh, Eddie Nunes. Any patron today, Joshua Bardwell? I'm not sure what you mean, Eddie. Any patrons today? I hope I have patrons. Speaking of patrons. Here they are. Look at these beautiful people in the Discord up here in the upper right. Hello, patrons. We have a Discord server for patrons only. Underdog FPV is also a patron. She's also in the chat. Say hello, everybody. These lovely people up here. What is up? And in case you didn't know, we also take super chats. If you the primary focus of the stream is on doing the news, but we will read your super chats as well. Always happy to take your money, right? Oh, Game of Drones is a big fan of yours, Blunty.
Awesome, man. Getting a lot of good. I love the support in the chat, man. It's so cool to see all this stuff. So I really appreciate you guys, and we're happy to be here doing the news for you. So
it's true. That's true. We are happy. What kind of news have we got today?
Boy, I think this is going to be a pretty dense one. So pack up your, pull up your trousers. So first off, we're going to start with a pretty big one, which is the RDQ data dump. RDQ has a bunch of information that they've gotten from their lawyers and their investigations about remote ID. So we're going to talk a bit about that.
Yeah, they found some interesting stuff. Maybe some stuff that could help the court case along.
Yeah, we've got a FAA rule change. It looks like they've done some kind of change to the rules to remove some language, and that possibly changes how it's going to work for us when the law applies to our flight and maybe how we're prosecuted. So
yeah, okay.
We've also got we're going to talk about iGal, a little bit about iGal, and iGal's got a new challenge up for week 20 that anybody can be a part of.
The International Game of Whoop.
Yeah.
Hey, Blunty, 1 second. I'm getting a little bit of crackling in your audio, a little bit of breaking. I don't know if there's a way you could I think it sounds digital. I don't know if it's what it might be, but
interesting.
I wonder if yeah, no, it's Blunty. Sorry about that. I'm also hearing it. Maybe it's your feed to the OBS Ninja site. Don't know.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think I can do anything to that.
Maybe if I turn off my camera. In the past, we've had a problem where when I was doing Discord to you, it created an issue. Maybe that'll fix it.
Yeah.
Let's see. No. It's not clipping, Kyle K.
Huh.
Yeah.
How hard is it for you to change the output to Discord?
Well, that's easy enough, I think. You would just need to okay, so you swap to Discord now. I don't know. Let's find out. Why don't we keep going?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I don't know about gurgling.
So,
go ahead, Blunty.
all right. So let's see. We've also got the Runcam Racer 5. They've got a built-in gyro, which seems fairly interesting. We'll talk about what that is and what that function
why
actually does.
Why would you put a gyro in a camera, for gosh sakes?
We've got the new Caddx Nebula Pro. I think that's what they're calling it. It looks like that's going to come soon. Possibly reviews coming tomorrow. We've got the FETTec as a new 15 amp KISS AIO. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, a new KISS FETTec always coming out with really they don't have everything under the sun, but then when they do come out with something, it's usually pretty solid. So very interested to see what they've got there.
Looks like ImmersionRC's got locking UFL antennas they're shipping with their Ghost equipment.
Yeah, UFL common complaint is that it rips off. So maybe ImmersionRC has come up with a solution to that.
Yeah, looks like DRL signed a deal with T-Mobile. So that's pretty crazy.
Right. Yeah. Tampa Bay Dave says FETTec always low on amps. Yeah, good point. This isn't, well, we'll talk about it. That 15 amp rating sort of makes sense for what it is, but yeah.
Then we've got our community spotlight. We're going to look at something from one of our community members who's made a Orqa TBS Fusion cover. He'd like some people to print it and try it out.
Yeah. If you have a TBS, if you have an Orqa and you're running rapid fire, then you're good to go. But what if you're not?
Yeah. And then last off, we're going to quickly address, we talked about a little bit about ADayAtTheRange and his, Patreon and stuff like that. It does look like, just to put that out there, that is gone. The Patreon's disappeared and the YouTube is gone. So we'll discuss that a little bit at the end.
I talked about this a little bit on my live stream yesterday, but I wanted to get your take on it and kind of maybe put it to bed for good, as well as just cover it for the people who watch the news. I'm still hearing that crackling just a little bit, Blunty. Hard to know whether it's on my end or your end, but I think we're just going to forge ahead. It's up to you whether you want to go back to the OBS Ninja. I don't know if you could, it's still doing it on Discord, so it's not your OBS.
I could try restarting my audio. That might be dangerous, but
let's give it a go. You never know.
Be right back.
All right, now that he's gone, let's give it 1 second here, guys. Very professional, you know. While he's there, tell me in the chat, who do you like better, me or Blunty? Be honest.
I can hear you now.
Oh, you're back.
Testing 1, 2.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway,
well, if we can't figure it out,
people are saying it sounds okay. Maybe they're not. All right, let's go ahead. All right, so we'll start with number 1 on the list. RaceDayQuads has put up a gigantic data dump. How am I going to do this? Hang on, I got to manage my screens here. RaceDayQuads has put up a gigantic data dump of information Basically, RaceDayQuads has been gathering information. Sorry about that. Gathering information in preparation for the legal battle. And, we don't know what legal arguments they're going to make yet until they actually make them. But here's some information they found. And there's a couple things. I mean, you definitely should check this out. I'll put this in the show notes. In fact, I should have already done that. Whoops, my bad. I'll put this in the show notes. But there are a couple things that they've found that are pretty freaking interesting. Like, what's the first one you thought of, Blunty?
Yeah, well, so I'll look at the one you've got pulled up there. We've previously talked about the Department of Homeland Security being interested in, drone activity. I think that's a real world that we live in. It's that's something that's going to happen. And it looks like that it's been confirmed by some of the information they've seen in PowerPoint presentations and the statements by the FAA and the Department of Homeland Security that they are working together and sharing information across the RemoteID online access platform. So they'll basically be, more or less, it looks like a good possibility they'll be open season. So, they'd be able to see anywhere you are, even though their DHS and FAA is kind of a different thing. So it looks like they're going to be openly sharing this with, they talk about the FAA provides services to certain federal public entities.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not really surprising that they're creating this giant database of information about who was flying where. And then that they're going to be providing access to law enforcement, DHS, or whoever else. That doesn't really surprise me, I guess. Hold on, I'm putting the link in the show notes right now. Okay, great. Go ahead.
It is interesting. It's good to confirm that it's happening. I think that it's good to know that these kind of things are happening because, they talk about. They must be discoverable to the requesting agency, available and capable to comply with the issue request. Now, I don't know what that would mean.
Right. It's a bunch of government, federal sort of legalese.
Right. But yeah, I mean, so they do have some right there. I just think this is important because a lot of people seem to think that, because these are two different branches of government, that they won't be able to communicate and they won't be operating for each other's interests and things. But I think most of us understand that it's likely a lot of interplay. And I think that kind of moves into the next bit, which is there's been a lot of ex parte communication between the law enforcement and the FAA in a lot of different areas. This is just one of them, but they also held an invite-only remote ID demo at an FBI academy. And not only that, they tried to keep it secret from people, which I think is the more pressing issue. If you're going to test this stuff, why are you going to keep it from people? Why do you make them sign non-disclosure so they can't discuss it?
Right. And this, to me, when I spoke with the lawyer, Jonathan Ruprecht, and Tyler Brennan, one of the things that he asked was if anyone knows of any examples of ex parte communication, then they need to can they let us know? And I kind of didn't understand what that was. And the way I think it works is that if you are a federal agency who is making a rule, there are laws about the process that you have to go through. You can't just make a rule arbitrarily and impose it, although it does feel that way from the outside. You have to go through this comment period. That's not a courtesy. That's a legal requirement. And one of the legal requirements is that the communications about the rulemaking have to be done in public and can't sort of favor any particular body. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm sure I got some parts of that wrong. In other words, if the FAA and DHS and the FBI are having these secret meetings that no one's invited to, and in fact, you have to sign a non-disclosure saying you won't talk about the fact that the meeting even existed. And they're saying, here's how we're going to do remote ID, you guys. We'll do the public comment section, but then we know this is what we're going to do. That's actually a way to challenge the legality of the rule. And so in theory, the fact that there's actual proof that this happened I feel like it's hoping too much to say that that'll be sort of the silver bullet, but it is hope. I don't know.
Yeah, one of the things you mentioned, they do have to do a risk assessment as well, in addition to all those other things for the public, public comment period and all those things for the new rule. And there were 2 Freedom of Information requests done by RDQ and their team, and both of them said that there was no risk assessment that they found and no risk assessment documents or related information to that in the departments that they requested from. So it either leads to believe that it's for some reason super secretly sealed, which doesn't make sense because this is a rulemaking process and we should be able to know the risk assessments, or it never happened, which means it should not be a valid rulemaking process because they didn't make a risk assessment to know whether this was necessary. So.
Yeah, and this is one that people have mentioned before, the lack. I mean, people have said, where is the risk assessment? Before any federal regulation gets passed, there's supposed to be a risk assessment where they say, here are the risks, here are the potential outcomes. And my impression, obviously I'm not an expert on federal rulemaking, my impression is that in many ways that's a formality, that as long as you do the risk assessment, nobody looks too close at, like, if you're actually telling the truth. Yeah. You just like, okay, we did it. Now we passed the rule and everybody, you know, but now they haven't even done the risk assessment. So like, are drones a risk to the Fed national airspace? What are the risks that this regulation is going to mitigate? No one actually officially it looks like no one actually officially sat down, and everybody suspected that. But when you do an FOIA request and they come back and say, we didn't find anything, that's them admitting they didn't do it.
Right.
So
it is pretty concerning. Unfortunately, you know, yeah, I mean, that's a part of the process, like you said. So for them just to skip that, even like, as you mentioned, like they could have just done one and then denied its results or said that it doesn't like fit exactly how they wanted it to, or move the data to work for them. But instead, they've just gone past that and appear to have never done it. So.
Yeah. Now, I would love to tell you that, you know, someone's going to walk into court and go, Your Honor, there was no risk assessment. And the judge will go, we throw this remote ID thing out. Yay, drones are safe forever. I don't think that's likely, but it is nice to know that there are some angles here to challenge this, and we'll have to see how it goes. What are the next steps, Blunty? What is the next step in this whole thing?
So we're waiting on the remote ID rules, the final rule, to be published from the FAA. At the same time, it looks like they're gonna, we'll talk about in the next bit, they're gonna do community-based organizations as well, and put out rules for those and explain, you know, what those should be and why. And so I would expect us to see that, you know, we're supposed to see that in the next week or two. But unfortunately it could be delayed. Yeah, there's conversation that it could be delayed a while. You know, they do have the right to just file for a delay. So
yeah, I mean, unfortunately, no legal action can be taken until the rule is actually published. So we have to wait for them to publish it. There have been some suggestions that maybe there are signs of hope, but I'm not going to really hope for too much. Speaking of changes and signs of hope, there was a change in the rules recently. Where's my I have too many freaking windows up and I can't find my show notes. Sorry, guys.
So we had
a window manager.
Yeah, so we had a FAA did a rule change. They actually removed model aircraft language from a couple of the rules that we use currently for recreational flight. So the reason that we're allowed to fly recreationally as an exception to Part 107, which is the commercial rules, is because of you know, the recreational rules that we have in effect. And it looks like the ones that we were working under actively so that we weren't prosecuted when we were following the correct rules were Section 336 and Subpart E of 14 CFR Part 101. And it looks like both of those have been clear. It looks like maybe a clerical thing. It might have already happened before, but this is saying for sure, you know, this language has been removed. And so that, yeah, go ahead.
This is interesting because there is a Facebook group, which is the UAV Law, News, and Discussion Facebook group. This is, at least within the United States, the single best collection of minds as regards to drone law, at least that I know of. There's people in this group who are actual lawyers who used to be FAA investigators and so forth. When these guys talk about drone law, you shut up and listen, is the bottom line. They are not pulling it out of their butts. And so so they're talking about here how they removed Section 336, and that means that there are no exceptions to Part 107 as it reads now, which, if you read through this thread, basically what that means is that if you are not flying as a hobbyist under hobbyist regulations, then the FAA is going to treat you as a 107 operator, which is not what most people think. Most people think, when do you need a 107, Blunty?
Yeah, when you make money. That's what everybody
When you're making
says.
money. So that most people think if you're not making money, you don't need a 107. They think of the recreational rules as the default and 107 at commercial as the exception. But that is not how the FAA sees it. The FAA says if you are not 100% fitting the recreational rules in any way, then by default you become a 107. And since many people don't have a 107, then you're violating all kinds of rules you don't even know exists.
Yeah, it's unfortunate the way it works out like that. There is an active recreational rule. I think it's the rules list that we've seen for a while, and it's coming into place. Looks like possibly already this month, but sometime this month. That's 49 USC 44809. And that will basically be the list of recreational rules that we'll have to follow. Now, I did read through that, and I thought it was interesting because they define in these rules, the aircraft is operated in accordance with the programming of a community-based organization's set of safety guidelines. So they call out a community-based organization for the rules. I think that's pretty interesting.
Right, which is interesting because currently there have not been any CBOs actually defined. By the way, you guys who are looking for the links, I just added the links to the video description. So I just hit save on that, and you guys can check that out. The links are there. So let's think through the logic here with me. In order to be a recreational flyer, there are many things you need to do. One of them is that you're flying under the guidance of a community-based organization, a CBO. Now, everybody assumes that the AMA is a CBO, but since the government has not defined any legal process, definitions, or whatever to become a CBO, legally the FAA is not a CBO, which means that as of today, legally, no one can actually be compliant with the recreational rules, which means that as of today, every single person who thinks they're legally flying recreationally is actually flying under 107, but doesn't have a 107 certificate and is breaking the law. Did I get that right?
Yeah. That's just, from what we understand, yes. We are not lawyers, of course. But this is what we understand about the process. So yeah, and it's hard to know, like, will there be prosecution that covers this or not? Like, in the meantime, we don't know. RemoteID might cover this and put new rules for recreational that kind of fit in this gap. It's kind of hard to know how that'll work. Also, we're expecting to see community-based organization definitions come out along with RemoteID rules, and that would possibly mean that we could be compliant with this rule once the community-based organizations are set up and good to go.
Yeah, so I think we're making a little bit of sort of a mountain out of a molehill here. It seems like what's actually happening is that we're in a transition period where the regulation, they're getting ready for RemoteID to come in, and they're just shuffling the rules around. I don't think it's likely that people are going to be prosecuted under this, but if you look at something like that guy from Philly who got in big trouble, one of the things he got in trouble with was for flying without a 107. Now, he was monetizing his channel. He should have had a 107. But I do worry that if there's a recreational flyer out there who gets themselves noticed, they could just get these fines piled on because the FAA will treat them as if they should have had a 107, and it'll be a mess. So, anyway.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what the rules say.
Hopefully we get those. Hopefully we get that feedback pretty quick, like from the final rule from the FAA, and we can actually know, what's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. Enough about that. Want to talk about something more cheerful?
Yeah. So let's move on a little bit here. We're gonna go talk about IGAO, the International Game of Whoop.
What is the International Game of Whoop?
So the International Game of Whoop is put on by Daniel Seguano, that is FPV Skittles, and he puts on a weekly competition for pilots all around the world. Basically, you sign up at the beginning, and then every week you do a trick or a challenge that he's posted on the YouTube, and that's going to give you a letter if you fail the challenge. And then if you whoop out, like a game of quad or a game of horse, if you end up getting all the letters, then you're whooped out, and they're trying to see how many pilots can stay till the very end. So they're on week 20 right now, and this week is pretty interesting because this is actually the Emuflight Challenge Week, and that means that anybody can compete. They're picking 5 people to do this that are not part of IGAO currently, or that are the fastest times regardless, to compete in this and do this challenge as well. And if you can get top 5, you'll get a secret thing from Emuflight that you have to sign an NDA for.
Wow.
Seems pretty cool.
Okay, so I'm showing right now the current challenge. Now this is week 20. So they're 20 weeks into this giant game of quad or game of horse. And is this what I'm showing you right now, the challenge for week 20? Is this also the Emuflight special challenge? All right, let's take a look at it.
5 people that are still in ADayATTheRange will get it, and 5 people that aren't.
Oh, so even if you haven't been participating, you can still enter this one challenge. Normally, you have to start at week 1 and work, and you get eliminated each week, or you don't. Interesting.
Correct.
Let's take a look at the challenge. Let's see how hard this is. Gate 1, start mid. Okay, forward through gate 1, bottom right, top right. All right. Bottom right. So this doesn't look like normally Game of Quad, you're doing super hard tricks. It looks to me like... Yeah, go ahead.
So in this one, so this is week 20. So on the 5 weeks, so week 5, week 10, week 15, week 20, they eliminate half the pilots. And so the way they're doing it this week is by times.
I see.
So basically, you're racing on this course, and then you're setting a time, and you're also doing tricks. So if you can do tricks in between, like power loops over the top and stuff that they've picked, you also get time off on your time. And then the pilots with the top 50% of the pilots with the best times will move on and not get a letter, and the rest of the pilots will get a letter.
Wow, that's that. Because I was thinking one of the problems with Game of Quad is that if everybody is good, then you just end up with everybody moving forward and very few people being eliminated. But by making a time component, you can eliminate the bottom half of the field. But I love that they're not just making it for people who are fast, but also people who can do tricks, that you can get time off for doing tricks is freaking amazing. Because maybe you're not the fastest, but you're real good at doing power loops or something. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, Eddie Nunez, about the crackle on Blunty's audio. We don't know why, but we'll try to get it better next time, but we're just going to forge ahead this time. Just is what it is. I'm sorry, guys. Any guess? I don't know. All I know is Kevin Plaisir, the lead Emuflight dev, reached out to me and he said, we're working on something. It's under NDA. Do you want to know about it? And I was like, well, maybe when it's ready to go. I'm kind of busy. I'm super busy. I don't know. I try not to. Alexander Romanenko, I hear the crackle. Blunty's streaming to me and I'm streaming to you. So if I hear the crackle, I don't know how you don't hear the crackle, but anyway. So I didn't find out the super secret thing under NDA. Well, it's the week of NDAs, isn't it? Do you know what the super secret Emuflight thing is?
I do not. I might later, but I don't now. And
you want to take a guess?
I'm going to guess that it's a new Whoop or a Whoop flight controller. I mean, if you think about what Emuflight would release as a product, there's only so many things that it could be. So who knows? Maybe it could be motors or something else interesting, but I would guess.
The folks in chat are asking if I'm using Discord noise suppression. No, it's off. Discord noise suppression is off, but good suggestion. Are you using noise suppression?
No, and it happened on both sides too. So it happened on. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, guys. We're just gonna keep going though. So anyway, International Game of Whoop, super cool, super fun thing. If you are a tiny Whoop pilot, well, it's too late for you to get in on it this year. Although you can enter this 1 week challenge, but keep an eye out on that because they run it every year, and it goes for like 30, 40, 50 weeks. Like it goes for like the whole year. If you can,
it goes for really.
Yeah,
whoever can stay in. Yeah, it's pretty much how it goes. It's a few hundred pilots, I think, to start. And it seems like a cool opportunity for people. You don't have to be from anywhere. You don't have to have anything special, really. You just have to set up the challenge for the week and be better than the other people doing the challenge. So I think it's a cool opportunity for unknown pilots or pilots who don't have anything or anything. And the other thing that's cool is that you're getting prizes most of the time every week. Like they're giving some pilots prizes or random things. There's sponsors for every week. And so, it just kind of keeps everybody involved, and there's always a chance to get something. So it seems cool for a lot of people to do for free,
Yeah. Cool. All right. Let's move on. The next thing we're going to talk about is the Runcam Racer 5. Let me just pop this up on screen here. Runcam Racer 5. It's exactly the same as the Runcam Racer 4, except it has an accelerometer in it and a gyro. So who cares? Blunty, do you care?
I'm not sure that I do. I care for maybe for other reasons that I don't know are even useful. But they say this is for telling you the angle of the camera. I'm not really sure. The usefulness to an average pilot.
I'm trying to find the image that they posted. Go ahead.
Yeah, but basically this uses, there's going to be a ports tab option for this feature in Betaflight 4.3. Otherwise, in 4.2, you just enable it on MSP, and it can do this, put this in the OSD.
Yeah, so you can have your camera angle in your on-screen display.
Yeah.
If your quad is flat and level. Which I guess, okay. Yeah. I mean, let's say you want to set your camera angle to like exactly 37 degrees. Okay. But there's a couple problems with it.
Yeah, first of all, Albert Kim said this is delayed. It's like 300 seconds or so, 300 milliseconds or so delayed. And so that kind of makes it not super useful because it doesn't give you real-time feedback. It's like delayed feedback. So as you're changing it, you're stopping and waiting and stopping and waiting. And
right.
Yeah, I don't really understand it. And then the other thing is like, to me, I would like to use this gyro data. You know, like one thing we've talked about for a long time is like real steady solutions that aren't GoPro. And if you could take the gyro data off of a camera and know how the camera was moving, it seems to me that you could use that to stabilize the camera.
Yes. Now, if you could actually get this information at a high enough frequency and store it like in a black box log or something, then it might be useful for post-flight stabilization, which could be kind of cool. But I mean, there's maybe potential here if you're doing some kind of image stabilization. Yeah, thank you, Doghouse FPV is suggesting. If you were doing image stabilization, having a gimbal, having a gyro in the camera or an accelerometer in the camera might help the gimbal work better. But part of the problem with that is, number one, the delay, which Albert Kim pointed out. And number two, when you're flying, an accelerometer is going all over the place because the movement of the quad affects the accelerometer. So I think the most useful thing it is for setting your camera angle. But here's the problem with that. Somebody in the Discord once posted some images, and he had set all his cameras to exactly the same angle, very, very precisely. But because the actual circuit board with the sensor on it, or maybe the sensor was not perfectly perpendicular or something, the actual angle, the camera lens was not the same, even when the camera housing was the same. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I just don't see the practical application. The other thing is, like, don't you have to calibrate the accelerometer?
Yes, you do.
So that means
presumably, yeah.
So that means you have to set it level every time, and it's got to be the same surface, or you've got to recalibrate it. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're out in the field, you put it in the grass, and it's not perfectly level.
That's a good point. Like, if you think about it, Blunty, I mean, you can calibrate them at the factory, yes, of course. But let's say you're trying to get your camera to exactly 37 degrees. So the first thing you have to do is you have to set the camera at 0 degrees, and then calibrate. Right. So your perfect 37-degree calibration is going to be as accurate as your 0 degree. And unlike the quadcopter, like, what are you going to do? Put the camera flat on its back? How are you going to calibrate the accelerometer? I don't know. This feels like this just feels like a freaking marketing thing looking for an interesting solution. So I don't know. Kyle K says you only have to calibrate the accelerometer once. That's not 100% true, Kyle, because I mean, a lot of times that is true, but especially if you are subjecting it to G-forces, like you're crashing your quad, it can get knocked out of calibration and need recalibration. That's very, very common. So maybe they've solved that problem.
Especially for this situation where you're not isolating the camera. You know, the camera is on the body of the frame. You're just hitting it over and over again and shocking that accelerometer. I would expect it to drift because there's only one. You know. So
we shall see. Maybe Runcam's onto something and we're just heathens who don't appreciate their genius. Pretty Fly for a White Guy wants to know, why would you stabilize crappy footage from the FPV camera? I don't know, man, but some people do. There's an active project, an open source project out there right now working on stabilizing DVR footage using black box gyro data. And I'm like, cool, I guess, but yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, so in the same vein of the cameras here, we've got the new Caddx Nebula Pro, looks like is coming soon. We've got a teaser image of the new camera was posted on a Dutch website. They've actually got it in a bind and fly. but we get to see it in the bind and fly there.
I'm looking for this picture here. I'm not actually getting the picture. Let's try another image from Facebook. Let's see if I can get that.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go. A new
So it's
Caddx
supposed to be
camera.
the rumor is 720p, 120 FPS. But the really interesting thing here is we had a video pop up from a YouTuber and that disappeared, but somebody else posted a video, an unlisted video. It'll be the first video in my link there.
Let's see. Where's that video? ShopRC. This video here. Okay.
Yep. And then that actually is some footage supposedly from the camera. So.
Oh, well, I mean, you guys are going to be seeing it at a low-resolution live stream. I will put this link in the show notes right now. Oh, as soon as I click away from the screen, I'll put this link in the show notes, and you can check the original video. I mean, my gut feeling is this looks better than the footage I've seen from the Nebula.
Yeah.
This is actually really encouraging.
Yeah, I think if this is, this is the footage from the micro-sized camera, I think this is pretty good. This is like right between, to me, the Nebula and the DJI FPV camera, leaning towards the DJI FPV camera.
Yeah, I'd like to see it on a sunny day. Sorry, Blunty, go ahead.
Yeah, I just mean if that's the case, then that's wonderful. We've been dealing with the Nebula for a long time, and that's been the only option. So it's wonderful to see the new option. And to be honest, Caddx knows better. I hope. So from this footage, it looks great to me.
Yeah, I mean, I'll always be a little suspicious of the very first footage released by the vendor, because the very first Nebula footage, I think, looked better than the subsequent footage did. I'm looking right now for that kind of ghostly effect that you see with the Nebula, and I'm paying attention up here to the mountains. Now, it's cloudy, so it's hard to tell if it's... I think it's just the cloudiness of the day. I'm not seeing any of that ghostly effect in the foreground. I'd like to see it on a sunnier day, because that's when that'll really come out. But my first impression of this is that this is the first time I've been actually not kind of let down by a Nebula. So looking for, and I love the fact that it's 120 FPS. It's that it's the low latency mode instead of the high quality mode.
Yeah, Albert Kim says he's got the review coming tomorrow, so you can keep an eye out for that one.
We should be able to see
reviews. Yeah, he sure does, doesn't he?
Yeah. Let me put this link here in the show notes. One second. Yeah, I made the show notes, but I didn't put the frickin' links in. That's my bad. I don't know why I didn't do that. I was just busy today. Trying to fly this hexacopter, actually. It's not in the show notes. I got this hexacopter from Flywoo. Maybe I should put that in the show. Yeah. You seen this?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a Flywoo Explorer, but it's a hexacopter instead of a quadcopter. Okay, I'm
That's
intrigued.
pretty cool.
All right, I'm going to save that, and I'm also going to put the link to the Runcam Racer 5 in. All right, let's move on to the next thing. FETTec is going to release a new 15 amp KISS F3 all-in-one. Now, before you judge the 15 amp rating, just take a look at what it is here. It's for toothpicks and tiny whoops, not for big quads. So 15 amps it's okay, right? No?
Yeah, this is 25 by 25 toothpick. Also, I would say this is FETTec, so I would expect there to be decent quality. From everything I've seen from them, their products have come out decent quality. And this seems to be the same. They say that this is 2 to 4S, so you can only do 4S on this, which it's a toothpick. So, most people are doing 2 to 4S on that. But also, even then, the FETs are still rated to 30 volts. So they are definitely it seems like they're trying to, have a good quality board here for people.
Yeah, I can't decide how to feel about FETTec, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. On the one hand, they put so much attention into their design, and they're super proud of their manufacturing. On the other hand, KISS has this reputation for popping ESCs, and it's I can't decide if they're the best or the worst.
Yeah, I'll say most of the fireballs I've seen have been Flyduino.
That's true. So maybe FETTec is breaking from that tradition. Yeah. Well, we got to see. But if you're looking for a 15 amp, here's the thing. If you love KISS and you like toothpicks and you want a 25 by 25 flight controller, you have been out of luck until, well, soon. Now you're going to have a choice. And the KISS lovers, you know, they are going to be all over it.
Gotcha. Give me just 1 second. I'm going to, if you want to go on to the next thing a little bit. I think I can fix this audio here.
What is it? I want to know this. Let's see if he fixes it. Alejandro Valdez. Hey, Joshua Bardwell. Any flying group in Knoxville? Yeah, Knoxville FPV Racing on Facebook. There's a lot of people in Knoxville who fly. A shocking number, actually, because Knoxville is not that big of a city. But, yeah. While Blunty's fixing his audio, we've also got some super chats that have come in, and I'll go ahead and read those. Johnny DRC, thank you for a $10 super chat. Thanks for all the help this morning with my video problem on my F4. I hope we solved it. Josh Feltz, thanks for a $3 super chat, contributing to Blunty's beard care. Beard oil is what he says he prefers. The Franco Nunya, thank you for $3, contributing to Joshua's lack of hair care. I don't have hair. I cut my hair, but yeah. Ciati FPV in the chat saying, I think you were there when Steele said that the FETTec components weren't as good as his Flyduino yet. I don't remember that, and I know that it would be controversial if I said that I did, so I'm going to stay away from that one. Ciati, you be my guest. FPV Wannabe, thanks for a £2 towards JB's beard care. I do have a luxury, not quite as luxurious as Blunty's. Phalo, thanks for £10. Hi, JB. I know you collect factory CLI dumps and diffs and also the ones tweaked by you. Is there a chance to request a specific model? Gepersee Baby Croc with Vista and Crossfire. Philo, I have that quadcopter. I just haven't added the config dump, but I need to do that. So, yeah, I'll get on that. Grilled Cheese FPV, thanks for a $5 super chat. Thank you again for all the help in the past. Thank you for your support. Carlos Botros, thanks for a $5 super chat. Subscribe to JB's Patreon. You mean you paid $5 to tell other people to subscribe to my Patreon? Thank you, sir. If you ain't subbed, then what are you doing with your life? Also, what do you think of that titanium frame on Get FPV? Hey, Blunty, you're back.
All right, let's see if that fixed it.
What'd you do?
I changed the audio quality from 44 to 48 kilohertz.
That could do it.
I had to change it down to make Cyberpunk work, because Cyberpunk crackled on 48. So maybe not, but something to think about.
It seems okay now. Thank you to whoever in the chat suggested changing that. I saw that chat goes making all kinds of problems for life.
Yeah, you guys can thank Cyberpunk for that one.
Everybody's talking about the bugs in Cyberpunk, but nobody expected it to affect our live stream.
Yeah, it made it out of the game.
Yeah. Let's see. Exploding Evo. Oh, what do you think of the titanium frame on Get FPV? We talked about that titanium frame in the news once. 5-second take, Blunty?
It's really heavy, and it's really expensive.
There you go. Heavy and expensive. Oh, but it's indestructible. No, it isn't. Nothing's indestructible. You make it out of titanium, you make it out of whatever. You crash it in the ground at 80 miles an hour, eventually it's going to break. That's a fact. So it doesn't matter if it's indestructible, because I don't want a 200-gram frame anyway. That's my
Just a quick shout out to Fabio Pansera. He's the one who fixed it for me. 507 tagged him in that. So
Fabio Pansera is actually my editor.
Oh, you know wonderful! Thank you, Fabio.
Yeah, he's my editor. If you guys see Fabio Pansera in the chat, he's the guy who does 90% of my editing. He does like the first 90%, maybe 95%, and then I watch the video and I make little tweaks just to feel useful. But thank you, Fabio. Exploding Evo asks, did you order your tracer? I hit Get FPV up and I said, when are you going to get your shipment in? And they said, I don't know. We've had several hundred on order. And I was like, well, I'm hearing from these little shops who are getting shipments. I kind of thought you would be first in line. I mean, no offense, Blunty, but Get FPV orders 200, you order 5 or whatever. I figured they would go first in line. But I hope that Get FPV will get their shipment soon, and I'll get my order, but I haven't yet.
So I can provide some insight into that. Maybe it's just that I ordered quite a few of them way back, but my order was pending on Tango 2 Pros. So I think they had them in a box waiting on me, and then the Tango 2 Pros finished, and then they shipped out. So if anybody was waiting on Tango 2 Pros, they probably shipped in the last week or two, and then they got stock of Tracer. That's what I would guess.
Do you have Tango 2 Pros?
I have one Tango 2 Pro left.
Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, you said somebody else plugged your website. on the live stream, and you said that's cool, but I actually don't have a lot of stock, so I don't go out of my way to plug my website. Just trying to serve the local guys, I think. Anyway,
the TBS stuff just goes so fast. I mean, I'm not trying to play favorites or anything. It's just facts. Everybody loves TBS products, and they're hard to get sometimes. So just keep your eye out. I think they ship constantly. That's the main thing to think. There's not going to be like a wave and everybody gets Tracer together. I think it's like as people get like backorder products and as stuff gets out to people, I think that's as you'll see vendors get the stock. So just keep an eye out.
Cool. Alejandro Valdez, thank you for $5. John Larson, thank you for $5. Love this format of the news with ItsBlunty. And Aaron Rowland, thank you for $10 for the Airbnb. What Airbnb?
I don't know.
I mean, I am going to be Christmas week. I am going to go. I must have mentioned this on live stream. I'm going to be going on vacation with my family. We're just going to get an Airbnb somewhere and just hole up in an Airbnb and just not be home. Or not really, we're not really going to go out and get crazy, but maybe somebody remembered me mentioning that. So, Treelim Addiction says, I blocked Fabio because he just kept repeating that one thing. Oops, I thought he was just some schmuck like me. He is. He's nobody special. He's just a schmuck like me, but it is nice that he's helpful. Big claps for him. Now people are talking about what it's like to edit my video. Thank you, Fabio, for your kind comments. Your check's in the mail, dude. All right, let's get back on the news. What is the biggest problem with UFL connectors, Blunty?
The connectors come off and they break, and I don't know. I don't like UFLs in general. I just tell you that.
Why don't you like them?
No.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it's so hard to, basically you're ripping off the connector every time you remove it. That's what it feels like. It feels like, they're either on there or they're not on there. And that's the two options you get. Or they're wallowed out and then they don't hold.
Yeah.
That's what it seems
like.
Well,
not holding is the problem that we're approaching today. UFLs popping off has been a problem forever. And it's one of the reasons that I feel like MMCX got as big as it is. But MMCX comes with its own problems. Never mind. One of them being that it's a little heavier, So this is a new... You can barely see it. I wish we had better pictures, but we don't. A new type of, UFL connector from ImmersionRC. It's a locking UFL connector. Let's see if we got a better picture. Nope, we don't have a better picture. This is it. Oh, well. What do you think of that?
Yeah. It's cool. At least that'll solve that problem for people. If you do have those popping off or if you have those issues, you're not trying to tie it down as much anymore. The heat shrink doesn't have to hold it or whatever was doing it before. You don't have to use that glue.
Yeah. No, but I don't even know what that glue is. People sometimes ask me, what's that glue that they use? I have no idea.
I have that on a list to find out what that glue is.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting to look it up.
My approach is to fold the antenna back so it goes over the board. You got to keep it out of the way of the bind button and out of the way of the LEDs so you can read the LEDs and don't press the bind button. And then put heat shrink or tape on it, and that holds it in place.
I think that's a good rule for most people, even because you don't want to put pressure under the UFL, on the actual UFL itself to pull the pads off.
Yep.
I think that's a good rule in general, is just to run back across the board and then try to use something to hold it. So it's like the heat shrink or whatever else doing the work and not just the UFL connector holding the whole brunt.
Yeah. I mean, they can rip off real easy. It is true. So, all right, cool. Thank you, ImmersionRC. And my first thought, whenever ImmersionRC comes out with something, I'm going to start a little trouble here, and I apologize in advance for bringing you with me, Blunty. Whenever ImmersionRC comes out with a new product, I'm not going to name names, but someone else goes, that cloning, we came up with that first. And maybe that's true sometimes. I'm not going to I'm going to just stay right away from that. But this is one case where I'm pretty sure ImmersionRC did this first.
Yeah, I don't know of any locking UFLs that come on anything else. So.
Okay. So finally, something that isn't being cloned from the true innovators.
Okay, let's find out. Skadoosh says, do not use a locking UFL.
What? No, stop! Skadoosh says, yeah, the problem is then you rip the pad off instead, or the cable rips right out of the metal part. Just heat shrink it. I mean, yeah, no, I agree. Then you're right, Siati, you just rip the cable out. or you rip the pad off. If you tape it, then you can't pull on it, and that's okay.
Yeah, this prevents the situation in which you've got it attached, but it's like coming off, so it's like loose or whatever. And then
so maybe you still tape it for like impact resistance, but it solves that problem where you think you've got it clicked on, but it isn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a terrible idea and no one should do it. Damn you, Archimedes in the Discord. Damn you, sir. Damn you. You want look at this, Blunty.
Oh. Oh, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
I mean, it's not quite the same.
Yeah, it's similar.
It's very similar.
Idea.
It's very similar.
Solves the problem.
It does. I'm actually a real big fan of this because they solve two problems. Number one, this brass thing here keeps the UFL on, and number two, this heat shrink to this tab then prevents you from tugging or ripping at it. I think this is more kind of what I do with the tape, but okay, fair enough. Credit as usual. TBS did everything before everybody else. All right. Moving on. What do we got next?
So in other companies with three-letter names, DRL has come up with a deal with T-Mobile. So they are saying that they're going to integrate 5G into all the DRL drones. And so they're going to provide 5G feeds, like video feeds from all the drones now, so you'll have live feed on the drones. And yeah, they're going to be sponsored by T-Mobile. Sounds like they're getting some money from them too, so maybe helps out DRL.
Yeah, people have been wondering about 5G. Number one, that it gives you cancer, it kills your brain cells and turns you into a zombie. But setting that aside, people have been wondering about 5G because it's supposed to deliver really low latency connections. It hasn't been possible to fly drones over cellular unless you're doing like a really autonomous mission and all you're doing is updating the waypoints. Not for real time, it's no good. And 5G in theory can deliver like, single digit millisecond latency. There's some reasons why that's not entirely true, but it is pretty cool to see this partnership, DRL and T-Mobile, and the ability to stream straight from the drone in real time. I've always thought that's one of the big advantages of FPV racing that DRL doesn't actually take advantage of. They don't stream live. They just capture the feeds and they edit it together afterwards.
Yeah, other thing that's interesting too is some of the issues with 5G can be solved because of this partnership, because they're setting up the track. So if you're in real life setting up the track, you can put these transponders or whatever you need to make the 5G work as well as it needs to work.
Yeah.
They have the short, I can't remember the names of them, but there's like a short range version and there's a long range version of 5G.
Yeah,
so
correct.
If they can do the short range, low latency, higher bandwidth version.
Yeah.
Because they have transponders everywhere, then it'll look a lot better for the system too. But it'll be an interesting use case. Most people won't ever be able to do that, but for this situation, it seems pretty cool.
Yeah. Who was it in the chat who asked 5G doesn't really penetrate well? Yeah. So there's two versions of 5G. One of them is a higher frequency version that is ultra high bandwidth and ultra low latency and penetrates very poorly. And one of them is it's still higher bandwidth than 4G, but penetrates better and is higher latency. Bobby Baggs wants to know, what live camera systems does DRL use? DRL uses standard analog transmitters. They have a special receiver system, a distributed antenna receiver system that they invented. It's completely proprietary and very secret. That lets them fly throughout the arena without losing video, but it's just analog video. And then they record GoPros on board, and then when you watch the show, they edit the GoPros together. So that's pretty cool. I'm just psyched to see this partnership. I'm just psyched to see big companies getting involved in FPV. I just think that's good for us.
It's really good for the hobby. The other thing too, they mentioned DRL will soon stream the view from all the drones live to fans without interruptions. So that's an interesting idea, because if you could go in and say, I think they did this with NASCAR before, but basically you could go in and say, hey, I want to fly with this pilot. Yeah. And so I could fly with Nurk and just always see Nurk's feed and see how Nurk's fly and what his laps were like and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's super cool for the sport because that's way more involving. You know, if I can always watch, you know, how's Vanover's position? I can hop over here and check this guy's and see them all live on my screen. I think that's a lot more immersive for a lot of people who want to like be a part of that race.
Yeah. Yeah, I like it. People will need to get used to it. People aren't used to directing their own feed in that way, but it's still exciting. Okay, we're coming towards the end of the show. We might go a little bit long today, but I'm sure the chat won't mind. Community Spotlight. Community Spotlight, we focus on a community member, not flying. Community Spotlight is usually, you think of people doing like freestyle rips. We're focusing on different projects that people are working on, programs and so forth. And this week, what we're focusing on is a guy named Archimedes, and he reached out to me, and he is trying to make a cover, a 3D printed cover for the TBS Fusion for the Orqa goggle. Actually, this print, what the F? Is this a print? This has got to be resin. This is the cleanest freaking print I've ever seen.
Does look really good.
This has to be resin. This can't be FDM. Oh, I can barely. Oh, he's covered it with something, hasn't he? Or maybe he's smoothed it. Like maybe it's ABS and he smoothed it with I don't know. It's a really good looking print. Jeez.
He said it's print plus paint, printed on glass. Oh, so the bottom's it's flat. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the naked print. But he's having some trouble getting it to fit right, I think is what he was asking, if I remember correctly. He says it's finished. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, it's finished and it fits my goggles well, but it might not if it's made with a different printer or printer setting. So like you said, that is a good looking print, but I think he probably wants to have other people print it so they can try it on their systems and see like, hey, how are your tolerances? And if it's a couple % off, it's still going to work, stuff like that. So if you guys need a Fusion cover, TBS Fusion cover for your Orqa goggles, definitely encourage you to give this one a print.
Yeah. It looks great. That paint is amazing. It looks factory fresh. But give it a print and try it out. How many people out there own Orqas? And then how many of those people own Fusion? Well, we'll see. I mean, Orqa sells in a kit with the rapid fire, but really good looking work.
Yeah, he wanted to mention that there is another one in there that somebody else has made, but the tabs seem too weak. And he broke the tabs off, and that's what caused him to make this one. So
that's the beauty of 3D printing and iterative design. It's beautiful. Yeah. Cool. All right. We got one more topic that we're going to cover. We're almost to the end of the show. I'm almost tempted to just say, well, I'm not going to do this, but I'm half tempted to just say, screw it, let it go. But I really want to get your input on it, Blunty. I talked about this on my live stream, and so now we're going to talk about it, and then we're going to finally put it to bed forever. ADayAtTheRange. ADayAtTheRange is the guy who had the HDMI output from the goggles, and then he said that DJI paid him. Apparently, he said $80,000, which actually makes me believe the story less. But anyway, such a big number. He said DJI paid him to not release the product, and then he said he had another one. And I was like, didn't DJI pay you not to do this? And he's like, no, it's totally different. This one's fine. And then he disappeared. His YouTube channel is gone. His Patreon is gone. His Discord server is gone. And on top of that, he has a Patreon, and he just took people's money and disappeared. So what do you think about the situation, Blunty?
I'll say a couple different things. One is I'm not a part of this Patreon. I don't know anybody who directly was before this month. And so I think it might be interesting to make sure that all those Patreon payments went through. I was told by somebody that he didn't actually get any money, or he didn't get very much money. Most of the transactions didn't actually finish because he canceled the Patreon in the middle of the month. Right. So it's possible that a lot of people, he didn't get that much money. And so for me, if I think about that, plus the situation around it, plus him donating money to you on Super Chats, to me, this doesn't make a lot of sense as far as like a scam. I don't personally see this as a scam. I don't think we'll ever know at this point, possibly.
Yeah.
But I think that it's very likely he got a cease and desist, or something like that. And his lawyer was like, yep, sorry, bro, I was wrong. You got to take all this down right now, because he got direction from the lawyer, but who knows if that was paid? Who knows if that was good advice? And that might have changed as soon as they got a bad letter from DJI or some like preliminary lawsuit. Who knows what actually, they could have said, hey, we see you collecting money, so now we're going to sue you for the money you collected, that sort of thing,
Yeah.
There's just a lot of pieces to this. And in a situation like this with active litigation, you would not be able to make a statement.
No, you just disappear.
Yeah, there's no world in which you'd be able to say, sorry guys, I fucked up, here's your money back, anything like that. I think you have to wait a month, 2 months, 3 months until this is resolved. Yeah. Even then, if you're allowed to ever say anything or this is closed or not. So it's hard to say at this point. It's kind of gone now. I hope that nobody lost any money on this. And if you did, maybe shoot a message to Patreon and see if they can help you on that. But
I don't think Patreon's going to help, for the record. I mean, I've looked into it. Patreon basically once the creator can refund your payment. I know that as a creator on Patreon, there's a button I can hit that just refunds your payment and sends it right back to you. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. No, they're gone forever. But Patreon usually isn't going to step in. The other thing, but you make a good point. The default way that Patreon works is they charge you at the beginning of the month. So if you sign up on the 2nd of the month, you don't get charged until the 1st of the next month. So depending on when you actually signed up, you may not actually have paid him any money. So somebody else, 507RC, I think it was, said he didn't give an actual dollar amount. He just said about 4 years college tuition, and people guessed. So maybe it's as little. So somebody else threw out a number of like $25,000. $25,000 I would actually find plausible. 80,000 seems high to me, So anyway, he's gone.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be seeing him.
Yeah. Anyway. Well, it was on the show list for the news, so I thought we should talk about it at least once. Get your feedback. And now it's over. He's gone. If I hear from him, I'll be like, dude, what's up? But I sent him an email. I was like, hey, man, he's still around. Haven't heard back from him. So.
Yeah, the email that I had for him was like his private website, and that website is no longer existent, and I get a bounce back on that email. So I'm not sure which one you have. But and then real quick, I just want to say, Ciati says there are colleges that only charge $25K for 4 years. Community college, I think, is probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Well, I was at Georgia Tech. That's a state college, state university. I think I remember paying. Now, this was in the 90s, so it was a long time ago. I think I remember paying like $4,000 to $6,000 a semester. I think so, maybe $25 a year. Anyway, college tuition is a pretty wide range. Anyway, alrighty. Well, guys, that is gonna do it. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Blunty, I really enjoyed it.
Sorry about the audio issue. I'm glad we could get that fixed.
Yeah. Then you're going to go back to playing Cyberpunk 2077.
I am finished with it, actually. So
you played the whole game?
Yeah.
That's news. What's your review of Cyberpunk 2077?
6.5.
6.5 out of 10?
Yeah.
It's not actually that very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a game. I don't know. To me, it's like Fallout 4 Cyberpunk. That's my review. I'm just, I don't know. Fallout 4 was a cool game, but I don't know. I'm just not impressed. So
to me, it feels like that might be a step up. Fallout 4 is a good game, but I feel like Cyberpunk Fallout 4 is better than Fallout 4.
The biggest, I don't know how long we want to go on, but I'll just say the biggest issue I have is that it feels like they want you to feel like you have a lot of choice, but instead of going a lot of places, you're going one place no matter what, and they just justify why you're going that place no matter the choice you make.
It's the old Telltale Games problem. You ever play Telltale Games? And it's 100%. Like, you have all these choices that you can make, but actually, at the end of the day, the story always goes the same direction, pretty much, except for maybe like one thing.
It's similar to like Fallout 4 was like that, where you could choose different like paths or different areas to go in, but at the end, like it was kind of like, hey, you're doing one of these things, and that's how you're going to finish the game, and you're always here, and then you're going to do one of these things, and it's the same idea. So, which is fine. There's some different options, and side quests unlock different things, and there's a big world and stuff, but. It felt like it needed another 2 or 3 years, and it was clear that wasn't possible because it was delayed 8 months already. So,
it took like 8 years in development.
Yeah, it was a long time.
Now, it's funny that you say that because Witcher 3, by the same studio, was I didn't play Witcher 3, but it was widely renowned as just an amazing role playing game with all kinds of side quests and open world and and it feels like it maybe gave you more choice in the storyline than Fallout. So it seems like they could have gotten this right.
Yeah, so a lot of people talk about Witcher 3 Bloody Baron is a big thing for people, right? It was a big, huge early quest that was a side quest that you did not have to do. And this game doesn't have that. That's what I found. You know, like there's not, the narrative and exposition isn't done like that. The goal was to make an open world game with side quests and like a GTA or a Fallout like kind of environment. And because they did that, you didn't end up getting, I think, the narrative that The Witcher had. I'm not really sure why, because I'll just keep. I don't want to go on forever, but I feel like there was like the storyboard team did not communicate with the team who made the game. That's what it felt like.
Oh, interesting.
Well, there's a side quest. I don't want to spoil anything, but basically there's some records, and you mentioned like, hey, do you have these records? And the guy goes, yeah, we have the records. And he's standing there looking at you with a plain face. Instead of like any normal human would do, gesturing back at the records that are on the wall that you just asked about that are clearly there. You know, that's just a little flavor. But that flavor missing at every single step is where like I lose the immersion. I wanted to be immersed so bad, and then I walk around a corner and some guy's T-posing, and then, it's just hard to get into.
Let me ask you this, and we're not going to go for another 20 minutes talking about Cyberpunk, but I think it is an interesting topic, and for people who stuck around to the end of the stream, maybe a little bonus. So when Skyrim first came out, super buggy. 6 months or 9 months later, it had a few patches, and now it's just like maybe not the best game ever, but it certainly isn't like super buggy and crappy, right? You think they're going to patch this into like 2 years from now? No one will remember the buggy release?
I think it'll be good, but I don't know that it will be as big of a jump for people as something like that. I'm trying to think. There was a couple other games that did that. Like No Man's Sky is a different game now. Mm-hmm. So it's not going to be anything like that. They're not going to add narrative and stuff. They're not going to flesh out storylines like stuff
No Man's
like that.
Sky. So. No Man's Sky, super hyped release. It came out kind of super bare bones and not even really a full game, and crappy. Everybody was mad, and then they continued updating it and basically finished it, and now it's like a decent game, but it's a totally different game than it was at release.
Yeah, they've done all kinds of stuff. I mean, there's been like 3 or 4 major patches with giant content changes, and they've really made it what they promised in the original game. And I don't know that Cyberpunk will ever be there. It doesn't to me, I don't want to ruin it for people, but to me, it just doesn't. I'm not going to spoil anything, but it doesn't feel like it gets to anywhere useful to me. And it took me 24 hours to get to nowhere useful. So. I don't know. And one more criticism I'm going to say is that at the end, I made a choice, and then the dialogue and the character actions and the things that happened afterwards acted like I had picked the other choice, and this was the major story choice at the end of the story.
Do you think that was just a bug?
It's definitely a bug. Yeah, 100%. Because I went back and tried it again, and it still happened. The same dialogue choice, and then I picked the other dialogue choice, and it did the reverse. So it was like they had switched like the assignments or something for the last thing in the game. Very strange.
It almost feels like it's reminding me more of like a Borderlands style game where there are story elements. Borderlands is not a role play. You've got role playing elements in Borderlands where you level up your character and you get better weapons, but it's more just there's a story.
It's like Borderlands if there was like a city. With people walking around and there's stuff going on everywhere and there's vendors and stuff, but most of the vendors you walk up to you can't interact with, and most of the people don't have any unique conversation, and you see 6 people with the same jacket in the same scene, and stuff like that, where you're I don't want to see the same guy when I walk around the corner. Is this guy over here? Is this guy over here? To me, you might as well have had 50% less people, so I didn't see that. I would rather have had less crowd than have the same person around every corner. So.
Medrone says, now we know why you didn't live stream last week. You were playing Cyberpunk. Speaking of not live streaming, I am Blunty. I'm going to spring this on you on stream, so I apologize, but I want to let the people know. Next week, like I said, I will be doing some holiday time, so keep an eye on the schedule, keep an eye on my calendar, and keep an eye on the channel, because there will not be some of the normal live streams. I'm actually not 100% sure which day I'm going to cut it and which day I'm going to come back, but keep an eye on the channel. There's a little bar on my YouTube channel where you can see the upcoming live streams, and there's my editorial calendar on my website, fpvknowitall.com, and I'll keep that updated. But we may not be here next Tuesday, Blunty. In which case, I'll see when we get back.
All right, we'll play it by ear.
All right. That's going to do it for us this week, though, guys. Thank you so much for coming out. Oh, one more thing. I'm sorry. We're like 15 minutes over. I got to get the last super chats out of the way. So Obi Quad, thanks for $5. Carlos Botros, thanks for $5. 12S 10-inch or 12S 7-inch? Which one would be more useful? Oh, shoot, man. It all depends on the motor KV, doesn't it? You didn't tell me what the motor KV was. If you're going for cruising and longer flight time, 10-inch. If you're going for just ball-ripping acceleration and speed, 7-inch. But the motor KV makes the difference. And that's it. Now we're caught up. Boom, that's it. Thank you, guys. See you
Cool.
when
Thanks
we're back.
a lot, guys.
See you when we get back. Bye, everybody.